We love a niche sport on Offscript. So you love peering into the histories of the slightly more niche sports of this world.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've launched Snookered. We're going into the history of famous games that we all know and love, but we also enjoy niche sports. I mean, anything from, lawnmower racing to the wife carrying championship.
Yes.
We've, professional eating even. We've spoken to so many different people involved in different overtures. But another thing we love is talking to people locally who are doing really interesting things.
And that's right. And that's exactly what our two very special guests are doing. We've got Phil Bedford and Jay Usher in studio with us, and they are underwater hockey players. And I might add, the first underwater hockey players that we've ever had and welcomed into our Offscript studio. So, gentlemen, a very good afternoon to both of you.
How you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us, guys.
Well, I guess the first question that we need to ask you is, what on earth is underwater hockey?
What in water, actually?
Yeah.
It's like someone made a mistake and filled an ice hockey pitch full of water, and we jumped in.
It's hockey, right? But I mean, obviously, the name kind of gives it the suggestion. But how does it actually work, Jay?
So there's a weighted puck on the bottom of the pool, just like a hockey puck, except we don't have long sticks and ice skates. We have fins and very short sticks. So it's all long power and swimming down to the bottom of the pool and swimming.
Okay, so the puck is dropped. Does the game start on the surface of the pool, or does the game start...
Actually, the puck's on the bottom.
Puck's on the bottom.
You start from either side, and then there's a melee towards the centre where the puck is.
3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, it is more like a melee than anything else, you know?
It's like a sort of underwater rugby scrum, right? It's kind of... You can see fins just flapping in every single direction. I was watching a little bit of footage on YouTube, and it's frantic stuff. I mean, it's not... You'd think you'd be trying to conserve breath underwater, but no, you just go hell for leather.
No, it's all or nothing.
And to be clear on this, and I think it's an important distinction for our listeners, you've not got scuba tanks. And Phil, this is literally, you're holding your breath, you're going under, you're doing as much as you possibly can, and then you're popping back up, get breath to get back down.
Yeah, and you were saying to me a minute ago, what happens if you're about to score and you run out of air? And so that's where the strategy comes in. Because you, as a human being, it doesn't matter how good you are as a player, you can only breathe so long, right? And so that's where the strategy of coming down is before your team members run out of air. And so that adds the extra dynamic to it.
Typically, how long are you holding your breath underwater as you're playing? Because it is a vigorous sport as well.
Well, this is where your fitness kicks in, of course. Right. But because it is such a dynamic sport, it's actually more about recovery. So it's hold your breath, come up, you sprint to the surface, you'll take one breath, check your position, you're down again. So it's that amazing recovery. So in a game, you could be 10, 15, 20 seconds
I'd be
max.
Constantly 20 yards away from the action. I'd just be sort of treading water on the surface. The game would be going on over there. Is that something, do you sometimes find the game kind of gets away from you a bit if your fitness isn't quite up to it?
Yeah, fitness is huge. I mean, that's the big thing is I suppose what Jay's right. You know, if you're watching this from the top, it almost looks like a load of piranha because it follows the puck around. Because underwater, you can flick it. It will fly. But you're looking at a couple of meters, not like soccer. So you do have to stay relatively close.
So important that we kind of can visualise this for our listeners. So how many players per team? What are we looking at there, Jay?
So you've got 6 players active, and you can have 4 subs.
4 subs. So in order to make a substitution, is it a case you're going to pop up to the surface, tag them in, they jump in, you climb out?
Yeah, so there's a bin, an area where they stay. You've got to swim to that area.
Do you sub yourself off? Presumably.
As much as possible, actually, sometimes. Actually, sometimes I just lay on the side of the pool. Just
In other words, there's no one to do the job of holding up a board to say, Jay, get the heck out of the pool.
Yeah, no. I just thought it'll lay there like a dead seal, just flapping around,
But it's very much like ice hockey, so it's a live substitution, or it can subjoin.
When you think of ice hockey, though, you think of this puck just sliding razor fast across the ice. When I think of water resistance inside a pool, it's really hard to imagine how you move the puck around successfully.
You flick. You actually don't hit it, you flick it.
Right.
So like I said, I could reach you from here. I know the listeners can't see that, but
so
let's talk about 2-3
6 paces.
meters.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Couple of meters.
And off the bottom of the pool.
It'll lift.
There's no backlift, I take it. It's all
It's
forward.
a little stick. If you take a mobile phone and add another half of your mobile phone to like a Galaxy or something like that, that's the length of the stick.
Right.
Oh, so the stick's really small.
Yeah, it's quite short. Yeah, a lot of people are thinking ice hockey stick, right? But it's about that size. So the power actually comes from the flick of the wrist and the drive of the shoulder.
Oh, Lord.
Right, so we've got to start at the beginning. How did you guys get involved? Maybe Jay, how did you get involved in underwater hockey?
Okay, I'm the old dog of the team. So I actually started playing in 1983.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So not football, not rugby, not golf, not tennis, underwater hockey. How the heck does that come about?
Actually, it was sort of Liverpool football, Liverpool diving club at the time was sort of the start of it for me. We know it goes back a lot further into the Navy. So it's been around a long time, but we used it for fitness.
Right.
So as divers, it's an ideal fitness routine. So every time we were training to be divers, we trained to play hockey. So, but by the late 80s, I was already playing in Australia.
And you represented Australia?
Yeah, I represented South Australia. And then the year after I did Queensland. And then a couple of times against New Zealand. And then when I moved to America, I played for Texas for like 15 years.
Despite the fact you're a Liverpudlian, you've worn the colours of Australia and then you're a turncoat because you then played for Texas for 15 years.
Yeah, quite a while. Huh? It's quite a mixed up muddle, you know.
What about Phil? How did you get into underwater hockey?
So I actually, oddly enough, started around the same time. I just wasn't as old as Jay. I was actually 14. My dad was a diver, British Subaqua Club. And in the same way, they started hitting the puck around. In those days, it was called octopush.
Octopush, yes.
Okay, remember? Yeah. So and in those days, it was 8 people in the pool, not 6.
Right.
And it was
So
was pushing. It really was pushing.
It's just the rebrand of Octopush.
Yeah, and it's developed. Yeah, so I stopped playing for 20 years until I came to the UAE. I had some injuries, got back here, started playing here locally. And the sport had really evolved. You know, the sticks, as they call them, they've changed into these sort of futuristic things. They've got big padded gloves. I mean, the sport changed so much in 20 years. It's really jumped.
And we've got a decent size here in the UAE in terms of the community because you've got 2 teams. You've got the Pirates based here in Dubai, the Ducks based
the
in
Abu Dhabi
Abu
Ducks,
Dhabi.
yes. Our brethren in Abu Dhabi, yes, in
And
their own pond.
About 100 players playing
Yes,
this year
around
locally?
100 in the UAE now. And many mixed nationalities. It's such a great sport.
Yeah, that's important because just speaking to you off air there, Phil, you were mentioning you've got a lot of Arabs, a lot of spear kind of fishermen out there. You've got an awful lot as well of, I never thought of this, but lifeguards who are interested in building up their strength, love the water, just want to, I guess, get in and do something that's fitness related. And I guess underwater hockey is perfect for that.
Yeah, I mean, we got a massive Filipino contingent and they are fast. I mean, these guys are ex-competitive swimmers from back home. Now they teach here for their main jobs. And we do pick up a lot of people from the swimming professions in underwater hockey, just in the same way we pick up free divers and spearfishers, because it is that, if you love being underwater, there's nothing like it. And you add a bit of competition and fun to that as well.
So how does the kind of calendar look? Is it the Ducks versus the Pirates?
100 times over.
Who are we playing next week?
We've got the Pirates again. Good chance to get revenge on them. Is that how it works? Is there like a schedule of
There
big
is a bit
matches
of a calendar,
or like an annual bust up? Or
Yeah, no, we try and meet up a couple of times a year, so we'll put that in. But, in the region, Saudi's got 3 teams.
oh, wow.
So Saudi's got 3 teams. There's one in Tanzania. There's a small, they're trying to get one going in Bahrain. Egypt's got a team.
And is there like an international community? Are you guys plugged into the sort of underwater
Absolutely.
hockey international community?
Yeah. I mean, it's huge around the world now.
Yeah, it's a monster, actually. It's really surprising. So whenever people are coming to Dubai who play underwater hockey, they find us. And they're like, can we come play? So we have guests from all around the world. And they just stopping by and they're like, do you need equipment? Oh, yeah, we'll loan it to you. Because they play at home, so they want to play here.
And what about the World Championships? When is that happening and where is that
just
taking
happened,
place?
actually. I was lucky
Okay.
enough to land in the Gold Coast as it was on.
Oh, wow.
So just down the road from Brisbane. And, I was lucky enough to be there, watch it. And
how many countries take part in that?
Oh, blimey, I don't know what the actual numbers were.
Who won it? Please.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
They tend to win it all. Yes,
Interesting.
they're very good.
The
Wow.
Kiwis, right? We're getting
Well,
loads of
loads of
questions.
questions,
I want
loads
to
of
get
questions.
to this. So these are kind of fast, frenetic. I'm going to throw these at you. What is the depth, the size of the pool, and the size of the goals? So is it a standard swimming pool?
So we play in 2 pools. We play in Hamdan, which is 3 metres.
Yeah.
And then we play in Al Nassr Sports Centre, which is our sponsors run that. So that's 2.2.
2.2, and is that Olympic 50 metre?
Yeah, well, you go across the pool, so you're looking around 20 metres.
20 metre. Ah, you go that way.
But you need a flat bottom. That's what tends to challenge us with pools.
Okay, flat bottom, 20 metres. That's the size of the pool. And in terms of the goals, explain them to us, Phil. What size are the goals?
So it's like an L-shaped piece of metal which leans against the wall, and it's about 2.5 metres long. So that when you flick the puck, it hits and lands in the back and stays there.
Do you ever get any kind of controversial decisions? Is there VAR technology down there?
Every time we play.
Yeah, I mean, what constitutes a foul? Explain some of the sort of gameplay aspects to this, because I saw it and it's just this dizzying array of kind of it looks like very intricate kind of technique.
It's very skillful, actually.
And non-contact.
And it's supposedly non-contact.
Unlike ice hockey.
You don't believe us.
Yeah. But the thing about it is there's quite a bit of contact. So, they can wrap you up like an octopus, which stops you swimming. They can shoulder barge you. There's lots of things they can do, but a skillful player will actually dodge that. And of course, if you're fast, which I'm not.
Once upon a time, perhaps. Maybe.
I was once, yeah, but most of the players we have now are super fast.
Right.
Super fast.
Right. Is it possible, because you're sort of somewhat undercover underwater, it's harder to discern who's doing what? Can you get away with more stuff, more foul play?
You can get away with it a little bit, but there's 2 referees if it's an actual game, and there's normally one on your left, one on the right, and they'll come backwards and forwards with the game.
Which bodes the question, the referees, do they have oxygen so they can stay down?
No, they're on the top.
No,
they're holding as well.
Yeah, they're cruising.
Yeah, well, actually, the big levels will now have 3 refs, so they've stepped that up at the major competitions. But they'll be down there watching it, but it's so fast.
I need to check this out.
Yeah.
This is
But
great.
I mean, it's actually worthwhile mentioning, actually, that in Abu Dhabi, there's actually a kids' side now. They got the first school side, which was started by Mali, who's the coach in Abu Dhabi.
That's fantastic.
Which is brilliant. If we can get kids into this, everything happens, right?
Absolutely.
And you're even telling us on air that in some countries this has gone to almost a semi-professional level. Turkey being one of them.
Turkey and Colombia are really taking it to another level, whereas we understand it, the governments are actually supporting the players with time off work and finance and all that to actually turn up and play, which is great for.
Oh, it's amazing.
And what would be the kind of end goal or the kind of ultimate goal or dream for underwater hockey? I mean, water polo is an Olympic sport. Is it conceivable?
There is a World Championships, but for years it's been trying to get in the Olympics for the recognition that brings, and it is a major frustration for the sport because they're operating on such a level of athletes, and yet there's just been that can't quite get in there. Can't quite get in.
What needs to be done? Do we know? I mean, obviously you guys are at the cold face over here in the United Arab Emirates. Do we know why?
Well, we've been talking to CMAS, who operate it globally, and we've been actually in discussions on how do we bring the Worlds here.
To the UAE.
I mean, that's a big part of what we've been speaking to them about, starting with the youth side. So we're working on how do we get the Sports Council involved, how do we get these people, so we can get even more of this stuff into the UAE. But the big goal, I suppose, would be that.
We're getting loads of questions in. Someone's asking water hockey for teenagers, youngsters. What's the age range? What kind of age are you allowing people to come and play in your league?
If they're playing with the adults, then they've really got to be a little bit older, sort of 14, 15. But if we've got a load of kids coming and they've got parental supervision, then you can go younger, but you'd keep the kids with the kids kind of thing.
Okay.
Ewan's also asking, how can spectators see what's happening? Which is a good point, because with most sports...
How can we see what's happening?
It's like watching a bunch of piranhas half the time on the surface,
Well, when we're up at Hamdan's got this massive screen, right? And so one of the things we can work on in a bigger tournament is you actually have cameras down there streaming live straight onto the screen, so all the spectators can see it, and then that actually gets streamed on YouTube for the rest of the world. But if you're in Crystal Palace in the UK, you've got these big windows and you can just sit there and watch it.
Right.
Okay.
That's
Right.
class.
How do you work on your technique? What sort of training do you do?
Looking at
well,
each other.
well,
as
yeah,
do something else.
training? Yeah, we used to do
Are
quite
there
a lot.
members of the Ducks listening in?
Yeah, we can't talk about that just in case
Sorry,
there is some
sorry,
listening.
I'll tell you what we don't do. No. So obviously we swim a lot. Quite a few of us do a lot of weight training. It depends on the
Breath
position.
training?
Breath,
Weight. Yeah, breath, weight,
breath.
and swim.
Right.
The biggest thing with underwater hockey is your recovery time.
Yeah.
Because everything you're doing is on almost a single breath.
That's insane.
So 20 seconds single breath, 20 seconds single breath. pray to God someone scores a goal so you can get a break.
Yeah, is that kind of... So you're about 20 seconds on average. You're underwater 20 seconds. It's physical, it's frenetic. You pop up, you take a breath, you're back down.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and we've just been put through... so we're talking about the UA team. One of the trainings we've got is there's an exercise where you go underwater. You have to do a whole length underwater. And the minute you start the watch. You do the whole length underwater, you come up, and then when the 30 seconds is up, you have to swim back. So it's 30, 30, 30. And you try doing that for 10 lengths. And so it is building up that cardiovascular. I mean, it will take your cardiovascular through the roof. We've had triathlon. I do triathlon as well, and getting triathletes to try and do this, it really sort of lifts up their VO2 max. So if you're actually an athlete in another sport, underwater hockey will really enhance that because of what it does with your cardiovascular.
Wow. How can people find out more about the Pirates and about all the activities that take place here in the UAE?
We have an Instagram account. So we're on Instagram, Underwater Hockey Dubai. We're also on Facebook. And you can find me anywhere. I'm all over social media, Phil Bedford.
Okay. Are you confident it will become an Olympic sport one day, Phil?
I think one day it has to.
Yeah.
It's all about numbers, really, isn't it? Numbers and coverage.
Yeah. We're growing every year we grow. So we've just got to get to the point where we can put enough pressure on them to put us in the Olympics.
It's simple as that, right?
There you have it.
Get more mass involved, and one day that dream will come. Although squash is still waiting, guys. That's a story for a different day.
That's the challenge we've all got.
Yeah, exactly.
Phil, Jay, thank you so much for joining us in studio. It's been a really fun chat for us. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Much appreciated, guys. And we look forward to tuning into the next big clash against the Ducks.
Yes.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.